So this is the top here. You can probably see that it's quite warped in total. This is supposed to be straight, that's supposed to be straight, that's supposed to be straight. So I'll undo it with the exact screwdriver that the people used. Just a general king chrome. Nothing too exciting. And you're probably wondering what all of this other stuff in here is, and that is because I only just got it out of the box today. So that's packaging. Oh, look at that. This PC is still constructed from when the finalists did it on stage, so it wasn't really touched. It was just opened, packaging thrown inside, thrown in the box and couriered off. So that's victim number one. Certainly not straight whatsoever. This packaging here is to just help the graphics card not move too much. Usually you pack a little bit more in, but honestly the internals are already screwed, so there wasn't much point. And that's just a general bit of plastic. Nothing too exciting. Alright, now before I take it all apart and show you guys what's inside, the real question is, does it still start? So, still turn on at the back, plug it into the wall. Let's press the on button. So the answer is yes. Will it post? No. And as you can see, it just turns off almost instantaneously. And I'll show you guys exactly why. So what you can see here is the Corsair white LED fan sitting atop the Gigabyte motherboard, wireless MITX, NVIDIA GTX 950. So the stuff we broke here isn't too high end, but still it's a bit tragic. So let's dig deeper without further ado. I'll go ahead and unplug everything real quick. Doesn't really look like any of the ports are broken on the motherboard as far as SATA or I/O ports or USB 3. This is quite loose, however. So the builders had to plug in everything for this to work. It didn't have to post because it won't, because it's so broken, obviously. But all the LEDs had to spin, everything had to be connected in like you're about to install Windows. Alright, everything unplugged so far. Let's have a look at what this CPU cooler can bring to us. So we'll just undo the fan clip. Everything's just falling out. Look at that mess of absolute mess of cables. So the fan's fine. I mean, these are worse for wear, but looking in the camera, the fan seems to be perfectly fine. However, it's another story for this. Look at how bent this is. These are bent, all these are bent inwards. That's absolutely crazily bent. So what I'm going to do next is we'll try and take out the motherboard. We'll give you guys a closer look at exactly what's bent, and we'll inspect that CPU. So just before I show you guys the CPU, just look at how monumentally wrecked these fins are. Look at that, that's meant to be straight. It's a bit hard to see on the camera. There's dents in here, you can see where people have gripped it really hard. So this is why you take time with building your PC, ladies and gentlemen. Just got to get myself the mouse to take this off, and I'll be back in a second. So the CPU cooler is off. Like I said, it is absolutely bent to buggery. We've cleaned off the thermal paste because I had to put thermal paste on. Let's take a look at the RAM first. Just a Corsair value select, DDR4, one stick. Nothing too exciting. This may be one of the only other things that's still alive here. Looks perfectly fine. It's not really bent. There's no big scratches. Still feels like it's in one piece. The motherboard itself looks fairly good. There's a lot of leakage of thermal paste that's sitting around there, but nothing on the electronics. There's a couple of little squirts out there. Flipping it over really quick. Looks fine. I'd be very interested to see if this works or not. Sometimes you never know. The PCIe slot, let's put it down here, it does look a little bent. It's hard to see on camera, but overall that looks pretty fine. So let's just take out the CPU real quick. This is a i3 CPU fitting to the 1099 budget, and this is where the fun really begins, I'd say. So we'll lay this one back down. Look at this. Look at that. Let's try to put it here on camera. This CPU is bent as. I'll post up some photos on my Facebook as well of this. a little bit closer, because once again it's a bit hard to see on camera, but I'll provide you guys with a close-up in a second. Besides that, this motherboard, woo, bent pin city. Absolute bent pin city. You can see just by the change in colour, there's some here, there. You know, a couple of bent pins here. That is a lot. I mean, if you had a lot of time, you could probably fix it, but that is a lot of bent pins. So here's a little look at those bent pins that I was telling you guys about. Quite a lot of them on this Gigabyte. If you're wondering about the model name, this motherboard's quite cool. As you saw, it had a LED underglow on it. This one is the Gigabyte GA-B150 and Phoenix Wi-Fi, so it comes with Wi-Fi, which is what this is for here. And the CPU, just trying to hold it at the right distance away from the camera. Look at that. That's meant to be straight. That is very not straight. Bent corners. 2, 3 bent corners in total. This is it's not really focusing properly. This is the i3. There you go. Look at that. Not really worried about touching the bottom because this CPU is destroyed. It's really not in a good shape. Alright guys, next let's have a quick look at the hard disks. And the thing I want to point out to you real quick before we get at the hard drives is look at this. Look how destroyed this case is. It just bends like crazy. It's not meant to do that, and it doesn't normally do that whatsoever. That's not poor build quality. That's a case being absolutely smashed around. So if I just turn this back, we'll just undo these real quick. Get ourselves to the hard drives and SSDs. Not much point looking at the power supply, all the cables seem to be fine. Just removing the shroud here for the storage. Whoops. And take ourselves out an SSD. And we'll take ourselves out a hard drive. Normally I wouldn't pull them right out the back, but once again, like I said guys, this PC is pretty screwed, so not worried too much about being gentle. So this is our desktop hard drive, just reading it closely here, 1 terabyte. Seems to be destroyed on the SATA end, and I'll give you guys a bit of a close-up of that in a second. But as far as the good old Force LS 120 gig, plenty enough space for a couple of Steam games in your OS. Looking at it closely, it seems to be fine. There's some scratching around the power and the data areas, but that's about it. Alright guys, stand up. Stand by. So this is what I was saying with the power here. There's like a little notch for the data, and there should be a notch for the power as well. But as you can see, no notch to be seen. So that's actually been ripped off. If you look super closely, you can see like a little bit of a fragment of it. It used to be there, and you can see it looks a little bit bent as well. So this is probably another ripping kex. I mean, most likely the hard drive will work, but anytime it gets bumped, it's going to knock itself out. Think of it like a LAN cable that's lost its clip, for example. So guys, that concludes, I guess, the wrap up of what happens when you build and dismantle a PC 18 times in one LAN party. Like I said, this is for the NVIDIA Blueprint Challenge. We've got things like absolutely bent to buggery CPU coolers. We've got a CPU that's got 3 corners of it is now bent. We've got somewhere between 15 and 30 bent CPU pins on here. And we've got one very bent ODD drive tray. So the only things that really seem to come out of this absolutely unscathed is the 120 gig SSD, and funnily enough the GTX 950, which you guys can see over here. That seems to be perfectly fine, so I'm going to try these out a little bit later. But guys, if you liked what you saw, make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and also head over to facebook.com/MithyMayo to tell me what you want to see next. Alright guys, see you soon.